All right, good morning. My name is Charlie Easterling, and I am an assistant professor of biology for the College of Arts and Sciences. And I'm very happy to introduce our senior speaker selected for the College of Arts and Sciences, Kam Goetz. Kam, many of you know him because he is our ASNU student body president. He's also been a resident assistant and has also been really just a staple in the science department. He's worked as a teaching assistant as well as working as research lab assistants and really helping just make sure that our labs are able to kind of function properly and be able to help with all of that organization. Not only is Kam just a great servant within our university, but he's also a great servant of God. He's somebody that is continually just pouring out his love of God and just having very high amounts of enthusiasm towards that. And overall, I think that his future goals and kind of aspirations really kind of help with that. So Kam is currently a molecular and cellular biology major. He's also working on his master's degree in international community development, however. And overall, that speaks towards what his goals are. He wants to help others, and he wants to just continue to grow things, but do that in the eyes of the Lord. And so as Kam kind of continues on from Northwest, and he's going to share some great words with you today, but he also wants to do things like become a doctor, potentially get his law degree, and then be able to also take those skills that he has not only to help children, but also to be able to do things like actually work in impoverished countries and help kind of design and develop good healthcare systems for them as well. So I'm very honored and happy to introduce to you your speaker for today, Kam Goetz.
Thank you, Dr. Easterling. Y'all, I can't wait till she gets a shot to get up here. Dr. Easterling's been here for 2 years now and has just been killing it in our science department, and I can't say enough good things about her. But as much as I'd like to spend the rest of the time talking about other people, that's not what I'm slotted to do today. I get 30 minutes to share my heart with you all, and I'm going to be really honest with you guys. I've been wanting to do this for a long time. My personality is, I'm the kind of guy who doesn't necessarily like personal attention, but loves to talk about the things that I have passion for. And one of those things that I'm probably the most passionate about is my God. And so that's what we're going to be focusing on today. I want to take the time to wish everyone a happy St. Patrick's Day. I don't see a lot of green in the room, so I feel much better that I don't have any green on. I apologize to my Irish ancestors. It's just not happening. Lights and green just don't go together. Another thing I want to kind of throw out there is I'm not going to talk about science, if that's okay. I did think about it when I got the invitation to speak. I'm like, can I somehow integrate what I've learned over the last 4 years into teaching about God? And maybe can I tie Jesus back to the mitochondria or something, which is the oh, I love you guys. You're amazing. Tie that. It's Jesus, the powerhouse of our life. It doesn't work. I've seen people that can do it, and they do it really well, but I'm just not there. So we're going to do this old school. We're going to jump into Scripture, and then we're going to see where we go from there. Is that cool? Cool. Take out your Bibles if you would, or take out your phones. Scripture will also be up on the screen. We're going to be diving into Mark chapter 14 today. I'm going to do a quick read through of the text, then get into some personal stuff, and we'll go from there. Mark chapter 14, we paint this scene starting with this verse, chapter 1. It was now 2 days before Passover and the festival of unleavened bread. The leading priests and teachers of religious law were still looking for an opportunity to capture Jesus secretly and kill him. But not during the Passover celebration, they agreed, or the people may riot. Meanwhile, Jesus was in Bethany at the home of Simon, a man who had previously had leprosy. While he was eating, a woman came in with a beautiful alabaster jar of expensive perfume made from the essence of nard. She broke open the jar and poured the perfume over his head. Some of those at the table were indignant. "Why waste such expensive perfume?" they asked. "It could have been sold for a year's wages and the money given to the poor." So they scolded her harshly. But Jesus replied, "Leave her alone. Why criticize her for doing such a good thing to me? You will always have the poor among you, and you can help them whenever you want to. but you will not always have me. She has done what she could and has anointed my body for burial ahead of time. I tell you the truth, wherever the good news is preached throughout the world, this woman's deed will be remembered and discussed." Then Judas Iscariot, one of the 12 disciples, went to the leading priests to arrange to betray Jesus to them. They were delighted when they heard why he had come, and they promised to give him money. So he began looking for an opportunity to betray Jesus. Go ahead and jump ahead to verse 18. Sitting at the Last Supper, sitting at the table, eating, Jesus said, "I tell you the truth, one of you eating with me here will betray me." Greatly distressed, each one asked in turn, "Am I the one?" He replied, "It is one of you 12 who is eating from this bowl with me. For the Son of Man must die, as the Scriptures declared long ago. But how terrible it will be for the one who betrays him. It would be far better for that man if he had never been born." Where is he going to go with this? We'll come back to that really quick. I want to take a few minutes, and as this senior speaker series is kind of centered around who our seniors are, where they came from, give you a quick synopsis of my background. I grew up in a town called Cooley City, Washington, all of 500 people, y'all. I mean, I went to public high school my whole life, and my graduating class was all of 11 people. So that's where I'm coming from. And that small town dynamic is kind of what I'm focusing on here. Small towns are really interesting because small towns are really hard to get away from, which is it's a weird concept. It feels like this is small, the world is bigger, go do something else. But what I saw growing up and what we see in a lot of small towns like the one I grew up in is young people grow up in this small world that they think is a really big world, if that makes sense. Peter Carlson, one of our great, what's his title? What does he do? Advising, one of our great advising guys. I just know him as a friend. He has this saying about perception. Fish don't see the water, and that's how people in small towns are. They think that their little world is one big world. Kids grow up, they go through high school, go to college. I have big dreams, I'm going to change the world, and life gets hard, and they end up right back in the small town. And then those kids become young adults, they have families of their own, and then what we get is this, what I like to call the good old boy culture, which is personified at a high school basketball game. In our gym, if you're looking at our gym, hoop, and the stands are all on one side. We have a stage on the other, so our whole audience section was just on one side of the court. And right about up here was a section of anywhere from 5 to 10 middle-aged white men every game who would sit in one section and just criticize our game the whole time. Back when I was a boy, man, sports were better. Man, the education was better. Man, this country was better. That's what I grew up with. And it creates this cycle of cynicism that is just draining. Lucky for me, I grew up in an incredible family. I know that some of them are on the live stream right now, so hi, Mom. And I had to. She was going to get me. But I grew up with an incredible family who, from day one, emphasized God is number one, to the point where I never felt suffocated by Christianity in my home. My parents just had a zeal for teaching us about the Lord. I was all of 4 years old when I had that conversation with Jesus of, you're legit. Like, I want what you have. I see what you've done for me. It's taken me a long time, and I'm still understanding what it means to be a follower of Jesus, but that was a very tangible step number one. And with that, I was able to have resources in fighting this cyclical cynicism that was present in how we grew up. And get to my senior year of high school with a decent trophy case of accolades. Small town achievements were easy to rack up. Life hadn't been hard for me. I had a lot of success. Looking forward to college, Northwest University was nowhere on my radar list. Actually, it was on the negative scale of places I didn't want to go to. And lo and behold, I visited here on my way to the University of Washington, and God didn't say anything. There was no voice. There was just a feeling of, this is where you belong. This is where you're going to be for 4 years, and you're going to love it. This is going to be your home. And I followed that feeling, and I came here, and it's been one of the best decisions of my life, right up there with, right below, asking Jesus into my life. But it has not been perfect. I remember very distinctly visiting the university. We had one other person here from my hometown, and talking to him about his experience, and I started to notice like he was kind of cramping my style. He was very, very cynical about his experience here. I was asking him about chapel. How cool is it that you guys sit down 3 times a week to worship the Lord? You just wait. It's going to get old real fast. I give you a year, and it's going to get old real fast. No, of course not. I can't. What about traffic? We don't have traffic growing up. Traffic for us is getting stopped behind a tractor. Like, that's it. Oh, you'll quickly learn how to flip the bird in a very, very productive way. What? No, you can't do that. It's in the Bible somewhere. Thou shalt not flip the bird. And I just noticed this not only among him, but among the other upperclassmen that I started to interact with, there was this very cynical nature about their experience here. And it was almost black and white between freshmen and sophomores and then your juniors and seniors, like the scale of, I'm so happy to be here, to, Lord, I want to get out. It was so incredibly evident. That's where I'm going today. I'm talking about cynicism. This isn't necessarily the most touchy-feely of things to speak on. This is more of a call-out message, not just for myself, but for my fellow upperclassmen. And really what I want this to be is somewhat of a warning to the underclassmen, where I've had such a great experience mentoring and getting to pass on to. I got my guys right down here in the front row, and so forth. But why cynicism? Why is this a problem? Why do we address this? I believe that cynicism is inherently selfish. It draws us into ourselves, into our brokenness and our bitterness, and away from the heart of God. Brant Hansen has a great little book called Unoffendable. My mom gave it to me. She raved about it. I thought she raved about it and gave it to me. I read it in a day, y'all. He goes on, he focuses more on how Christians should not be angry, and really hits home. If you need a punch in the gut on anger, go read this book. But he's got this great little quote in there referring to that person, the other, the person who's not the problem, that's me. And he says this: that guy is always wrong because he's always that guy. I'm always this guy. In other words, everybody's an idiot but me. I'm awesome, go me. Y'all, that is cynicism to a T. Before I get too much farther and start just rambling, I want to dig a little deeper, go back into Mark 14, and analyze 2 personalities in this passage. This passage was selected very specifically for 2 of the characters. One of them is Jesus, and the other is Judas. So, let's dive right back in. Mark chapter 14, starting in verse 1. Those first few verses, we know what the chief priests are doing. They've been doing this throughout the Gospels. We need to get rid of Jesus. He's hitting us hard, and in their mind, he is not only hitting the bureaucracy of their religious institutions, he's hitting at the core of their religious culture. Like, he's trying to take down everything that the Pharisees have built up throughout these several hundred years. We need to get rid of him, but we don't know how. Jesus is at the house of Simon, a personal friend of his, sitting down when a woman approaches him and anoints him with perfume. John's account of this in chapter 13 of John identifies this woman as Mary, the sister of Martha and Lazarus. This is a close friend of Jesus and the 12 disciples. This is someone who they know. Someone at the table gets indignant. Someone gets a little crabby. John also tells us that this is Judas. Judas gets indignant. Judas is the accountant of the 12 disciples, and he's on the take. He's dipping his hand into the jar and drawing off money for himself. So when he sees this beautiful thing of perfume literally broken open and poured on the head of Jesus, in his mind, his cynical nature starts taken away. That could have been 300 denarii, which is almost a year's worth of wages, be about 300 days worth of wages, a denarii for a day. I could have had a significant portion of that if you would have given it to us to sell to the poor. He becomes righteous, religious in his cynicism to kind of cover it up a little bit. What does Jesus do? He rebukes him. What are you doing? Like, this is one of the most beautiful things that anyone's ever done for me in my ministry. This is incredible. Don't bring that into this. You know that Jesus knows. He just knows what's going on in his heart, and he calls it out. We're now in verse 10. Verse 10 starts with then. Jesus just gets done with his little monologue. Then Judas leaves to go betray him. Judas takes his cynicism somewhere else. He acts in his bitterness, in his cynicism, and goes to the next place he believes he will find satisfaction. He will find usefulness for his talents, and that is to the enemies of Jesus. Now, this is something I hadn't thought about before. When Judas goes to the chief priests, it says they were delighted when they heard what he wanted to do. Like, they wanted to throw a party because he is now the answer to all their problems. Not only is he an intimate friend of Jesus, he is so intimate with Jesus that he can pick him out of a crowd in the dark. And y'all, they don't have electricity. And have you ever tried to look at something through torchlight? I hope not. I haven't. I tried candlelight last weekend, actually. I was staying at a friend's house for spring break, and they had a little candle in their room. And I'm like, I wonder what it'd be like to read by candlelight. I got a headache after 5 minutes, because that's not a lot of light. Judas can pick Jesus out of a crowd of other men in the dark. That's why they're ecstatic. They give him fulfillment. They give him money. Mark just leaves it at that. They give him money. Is it John or Matthew? Matthew tells us the 30 pieces of silver. 30 pieces of silver is about 4 months' worth of wages. With Jesus, he could have got a year with Mary and her perfume. With the Pharisees, he gets 4 months' worth. Well, better than nothing, right? Jumping ahead, we go to the Last Supper. We're in that verses 18 through 21. Jesus says, I know someone's going to betray me. The other Gospels all have the same narrative of Jesus actually calls out Judas in this moment. I want to take a quick look at John's account where Jesus starts the Last Supper with the washing of feet. Oh, y'all, just put yourself in Judas's shoes for just a minute. No pun intended with the feet washing thing. Could you imagine sitting down and having your teacher, who you've spent 3 years with, start scrubbing the dirt and the grime and the stuff off of your feet, knowing in your heart what you've agreed to do to him, and then Jesus just looks up right into Judas's eyes. And Judas knows that Jesus knows. Oh. Here's the crazy part. That could be me. Like, I'm not going to stand here and say that I would never be in Judas's shoes, because I don't think Judas ever thought he would be in Judas's shoes. That hits me hard. I don't know what it does for your emotions, but that just hits me hard. We move on to verses 43 through 46, still in Mark 14. I didn't put these on the slides. I'm paraphrasing here. Judas leads a band of armed men, a band of thugs, into the dark to Gethsemane, where he knows Jesus is going to be. He knows Jesus is going to be praying, identifies him in the dark, and abuses his friendship with Jesus to betray him for money. There are 2 other actions here that Judas does that are pretty despicable. He comes up to Jesus and says, "Rabbi, my teacher, my mentor, my guide." And then he kisses him. He abuses, misuses, and throws his friendship with Jesus into the dirt. Matthew's account of this in chapter 27, verse 50 says, after Judas kisses him, Jesus just looks and says, "My friend, do what you've come here to do. I've known you were going to do this the whole time. My friend, do what you've come here to do." We know the rest of the story. Jesus dies with the weight of the world on his shoulders, is buried, and emerges 3 days later, victorious over death with our freedom in hand. And y'all, Judas takes his bitterness and cynical heart to the pinnacle of its brokenness and hangs himself. He takes his own life, remorseful but not repentant. He dies the sinner's death. Now we find ourselves back at why. Why this story? Why this message? Why is this understanding of cynicism so important? My answer to that is, look at the world around you. Why would we not be cynical when we live in a world that is every day striving to break our backs, snap our spirits, and strip us of all we hold dear? The shootings, the bombings, the trafficking. You should get angry. You should get indignant. This is not the world it was supposed to be. John Eldredge, probably my favorite author right below C.S. Lewis, has this little tiny quote that hits me really hard. The world is what came up with strip malls, strip mines, and strip clubs. The world. And when I say the world has a connotation there. The world where our enemy is. We are in the world, not of the world, but guess who else is in the world? Satan. College people don't talk about Satan very much. And I don't understand that realm enough to go that direction, so fear not, I'm not going to go too heavy. But he's here, y'all. And he's not happy with who you are. And more importantly, who you want to be. We are under constant attack. And it's no wonder that we find cynicism so rampant among Christians. We know what the true life is supposed to be. Jesus showed it to us. True life is life with the Heavenly Father. Heaven is reality. But we get lost in the pain and the brokenness of this life along the way and lose sight of the true life we hope to receive. C.S. Lewis in The Great Divorce has this cool little interaction between two of his characters. There's an angel and there's a ghost. The angel is trying to get this ghost to come with him to the mountain of God. Come with me to heaven. This is how the interaction goes. Angel says, "Will you come with me to the mountains? It will hurt at first until your feet are hardened. Reality is harsh to the feet of shadows, but will you come?" And the ghost replies, "Well, that is a plan. I am perfectly ready to consider it. Of course, I should require some assurances. I should want to guarantee that you are taking me to a place where I shall find a wider sphere of usefulness and scope for the talents God has given me, and an atmosphere of free inquiry. In short, all that one means by civilization and the spiritualized life." I threw in some added effect there. Lewis later in the book sums up this mentality with a well-known quote. There are only two kinds of people in the end: those who say to God, "Thy will be done," and those who God says unto, "Thy will be done." This is where we find the Christian cynic, raging, ranting, turn or burn Christians who cannot find satisfaction in their own life and so strive to light the beliefs, experiences, and opinions of everyone else around them on fire. Bob Goff tells us this makes us no more than arsonists. But there's more to this story. There is a beautiful hope. This is what the angel says in response to the ghost. "No, I can promise you none of these things. No sphere of usefulness. You are not needed there at all. No scope for your talents, only forgiveness for having perverted them. No atmosphere of inquiry, for I will bring you to the land not of questions but of answers, and you shall see the face of God." And this is the most beautiful truth of all. It's not about who we are. It's not about what we do. It's about whose we are. and what he's done. The same Jesus who looked into the eyes of his betrayer and still chose to wash his feet chooses you too. Because when he sees you, he sees more than flesh and blood. He sees more than your makeup of successes and failures. He sees his creation, a tiny piece of his reflection. This is why life is so hard. We have an enemy who hates you because of whose you are and who you look like. Not in a physical way, but in a much deeper, intimate, spiritual way. William Gannard tells us, it is the image of God reflected in you that so enrages hell. It is this at which the demons hurl their mightiest weapons. You are beautiful, you are treasured, you are known, and you are loved by the same God who hung the stars and painted the sunset. That is why life is so hard. That is why you are challenged and resisted and attacked. Y'all, the road of the Christian is not an easy one to walk. Even without the struggles of this world against the community of faith, the community faith itself is hard to live in, isn't it? Isn't it? At the end of the day, we are all imperfect people striving to be perfect. Or as in our Christianese, we would say, I'm just trying to be a little more like Jesus. I got a news flash for you. You can't be Jesus. And trying to be more like him gives us no excuse to be selfish, bitter, and cruel when life doesn't go our way and it gets hard to walk the walk. I'm wrapping up here, I promise. I'm turning to Lewis one more time. He's got a great passage in Mere Christianity I want to quote from. People often think of Christian morality as a kind of bargain in which God says, if you keep a lot of rules, I will reward you, and if you don't, I'll do the other thing. I do not think that is the best way of looking at it. I would much rather say that every time you make a choice, you are turning the central part of you, the part of you that chooses, into something a little different from what it was before. Taking your life as a whole, with all of your innumerable choices, all your life long, you are slowly turning this central thing into either a heavenly creature or into a hellish creature. Either into a creature that is in harmony with God and with all other creatures and with itself, or else into one that is in a state of war and hatred with God and with its fellow creatures and with itself. To be the one kind of creature is heaven. That is joy and peace and knowledge and power. To be the other means madness, horror, idiocy, rage, impotence, and eternal loneliness. Each of us, at each moment, is progressing to one state or the other. Look at Judas, you guys. Look at what cynicism did to him. It turned him away from being a heavenly creature and towards being a hellish creature. It not only destroyed him, but it led him to destroy someone he loved, who was love itself. But his mistakes do not need to be our own. When you find yourself asking the question, why is life so hard? Step away from the question and into the answer. Because Jesus knows me, loves me, and finds me worthy. Y'all, I've had some great time here at NU. Being an RA was one of the best experiences of my life. Being student body president has been incredible, crazy, but incredible. Studying with professors like Dr. Easterling and Dr. Steinkamp and Spiritus and the entire science faculty has been a privilege unto itself. But what I've learned here in my time at Northwest, that's not my worth. My worth is not in my grades or my accolades or my status. My worth is in being a son of God. That's what I'm taking into my career. That's what I'm taking out of my time at NU. I'd like to end really quick. I know I'm in the negative. I'd like to end with a poem. It's not something I usually do, but I felt fancy, so we're going to do it. This is a poem by George MacDonald, the contemporary, the mentor of C.S. Lewis. With every morn, my life afresh must break, the crust of self gathered about me fresh, that thy wind spirit may rush in and shake the darkness out of me and rend the mesh. The spider devils spin out of the flesh, eager to net the soul before it wake. that it may slumber sly and listen to the snake. Wake up every morning, y'all, and thank the Lord for whose you are. Thank you guys for your time, and have a great day.